there, beautiful souls, Avalon here, and I wanted to share with you today my fairy decks that I'm working with currently at this moment in time. So we are experiencing Litha here in the Southern Hemisphere, where I reside in beautiful tropical Australia, the gorgeous island that it is, and I like to whip out not all of them because I can't fit all of them on my table, but a good selection of fairy decks, and I like to rotate that selection every year so that I'm not reaching for exactly the same decks because I've got quite a few fairy decks. So I've got some tarot decks here and some oracle decks here, and I wanted to introduce you to some of them and just talk a little bit about them and how I'm feeling about them this time around, and which ones I'm more drawn to, and all of that good yummy stuff, right? Because despite the fact that I've had a lot of these decks in my collection for some time, they go up and down in favour as far as I'm concerned. I'm drawn to specific ones every rotation of the wheel, and I can't quite explain why. I just love that it happens that way because then I get to experience much more diversity, and at least that's what I think. So let's get stuck in. I might start with an honourable mention, which is Soul Cards 2. Not exactly a fairy deck, but so obscure that it could really represent Fae in some aspect. It's very wild, it's very spirit, it is beautifully intuitive, and it is on my reading table every single day for every single reading. If you've had a reading with me in the last year, you will recognise this deck. Before that, I had Soul Cards 1. This is Soul Cards 2, so I've had Soul Cards 1. The backing of Soul Cards 2 is actually, I've got the reddy burgundy version, but I do think that you can actually get Soul Cards 2 with the blue backing, and then you can merge the two decks, which is something that I would have loved to do, but alas, I got the burgundy one. It's not going to stop me. It's not going to stop me from merging decks if I get the urge to. I love to merge decks, and I'm just not sure how I feel about merging Soul Cards at this stage. Now, my Soul Cards lives under this beautiful piece of fluorite. It's a love heart shaped fluorite, and it loves it. So they're permanently bonded, those two. Now, that's just my honourable mention right there. So the first deck, and this is in no particular order, they're all the decks that are out on my table right now that I am reading with at this moment in time, that I have been using them for client readings for the last, well, since December really, since Litha. So the first one that I'm going to show you is the Hezicos Tarot. Now, I'll put the names of the decks in the description bar below along with their authors. I can't recall the name of the author for this one, but this is the Hezicos Tarot, and it is a self-published deck. And I am really putting it to the test this time around. I have been reaching for it a lot more, and when I reach for it and I've completed one reading, then I really, really want to do another reading with it. That's kind of how I feel. I'm like, oh, I've got more work to do with you, and I'm really enjoying your vibe, and I really love the language of this deck. It looks so whimsical, but it's actually quite a serious reader. It likes to throw out some heavy cards, and cards that make you sort of think, cards that kind of shock a client and think, oh my god, what's going on there? It loves the big cards. It loves the big cards. It loves the devil. It loves the tower. It actually likes the 5 of Pentacles. It likes to throw out some heavy cards, 3 of Swords, you know, 8 of Swords. Like, it really likes some heavy, the Moon. Oh gosh, had a really great talk about the moon the other day with this particular deck in a reading, and it was a massive reading, and it's just a phenomenal deck, and it's got such a great voice, and I have enjoyed using it so much. I love its whimsy, I love its colour, I love its exuberance, its vibrant nature. I love how it has latched onto this concept of fairy in an elemental fashion, and how it depicts, I want to say it's gnomes, it's winged fairies, little gnomes like here in rods, and some tribal looking court cards, which are really, really nice, and on and on and on. Like it takes a little bit of an elemental approach to it, which I quite like. And I've been having so much fun with that particular deck. And and it's reversible backing, which I really, really love as well. So the backing is totally reversible, and it's really, really good cardstock. It's not so thick, but it's quite good. It's quite good. Now the next deck that I'm going to show you is the Tarot of the Sidhe by Emily Carding. What was that? Was it a spider? Oh yeah, it's a little spider. It was a little spider. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, mate. Sorry, the Tarot of the Sidhe by Emily Carding. The actual guidebook is forwarded by John Matthews. It's a nice read. The Sidhe symbol in the background all illuminated. It's freaky. It's lovely. It's got a great vibe. Now this deck is one deck that I love it. I really, really love it. However, this rotation, I've been a bit like, meh. I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know why. I find that this rotation, it feels more like an attuned deck to me. A deck that is specific for particular kinds of readings. And because I have this out as a fairy deck for this time of the year, the types of readings that this is attuned to isn't necessarily readings that I tend to do at this time of the year, which is really interesting to me. Whereas I've never had this feeling with this deck before. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. The name of the suits have changed. It takes the look, it takes the view of fairy from the Sidhe side of things, so more Celtic Norse, like deeper, ancient race. And it has changed the name of the suits to Maker, Dancer, Dreamer, and Warrior. So I really like it. I really like the take of it. They're really vibrant cards. They are non-traditional Rider-Waite sorts of images. They're really unique to the deck itself, and each one is just packed full of this energy because of the visual impact that each of the images contains. Such strong, bold colours, such interesting landscapes, such eye-capturing personalities and, you know, states of being. And you can really go deep with this deck when you want to meditate or do some kind of path working. And I do love it, and I've had only good things to say about it, but for some reason this rotation I've been a bit meh. I'm not really reaching for it as much. I have worked with it, but I'm not really reaching for it as much. And I kind of, today I had the urge to replace it on my deck. I'm like, I'm not really getting the use that I usually get out of this particular deck. I'd like to pull another one in to give myself an equal amount of diversity, since I find myself not really going there, and I'm reading for clients every day. So I know that I'm purposefully not going there with this particular deck, and so I'd rather remove it and get something else out, which is why I added the, today I added the Journey to the Hidden Realm Tarot, which is a deck that I only pulled out today. It's one that I swore I wouldn't use. It is one that I swore I wouldn't use because I tend to really favour this particular deck. It comes out during autumn, it comes out during winter, and I didn't want it to come out during spring because I wanted a little bit of diversity. It's an oldie, but it's a goldie, and it's Barbara Moore and Julia Jeffries, the Stone Maiden, and it is a facey deck. It captures the essence of Fae from a very close-up, very nature-centric point of view, earth-centric point of view, nature-centric. Calm down, who do I think I am? But it's really, really good for getting up close and personal, and it's one of those decks that will tell you the truth because you feel like you're that up close to the person, and they can look you in the eye. They can actually, you know, feel your breath and the sensation, and it's a very juicy, very tactile, very tasty sort of a deck. And it has a relatively straightforward language for a fairy deck. I find that Fae, Fairy, Sidhe decks, they have a tendency to be a little bit tricksy, a little bit mischievous with their messages. This one, not so much. This one has a maturity to it. It has an ancient wisdom to it. It has a grandfather tone to it. And And that's really nice. It's quite nurturing as a result of that. And it does give you a really healing sort of a message, but a message to journal about, something that is activating and that really gets those, you know, those juices flowing. And it's great for creativity readings, to use it when you want to connect with the muse. It is great when you need to connect with Arwen, you know, the elixir of inspiration, the druidic elixir of inspiration, and when you want to connect with some of those beautiful divine energies, this is a deck that can actually get you a little bit closer. Not everyone loves this deck because it is so facey. It is non-traditional Rider-Waite. It doesn't have the usual Rider-Waite symbolism. It doesn't follow any of the three systems. It's not Thoth, it's not Waite-Smith, it's not Marseille. It's its own unique thing. And that's the thing that is so beautiful about it. And because you get so up close to the characters, you feel like you get to develop a relationship with the deck and a relationship with each of the personalities. And I find myself, when I use that deck quite a bit, especially if I use it back to back, which I'm trying not to do, I have dreams about that deck. Some of the personalities actually come out in my dreams, and they're very vivid, these dreams, and so I quite like the deck. It's got a little something extra. Now, the last of the tarot decks that I'm going to show you, because I've tried to minimize the amounts of decks that I have on my table at any one rotation. Usually I have 6 per side, and that 6 can sometimes turn into 8 because I get a little bit like, I feel it's so bad, I feel like I need more variety, and I just turn into a moron, and then I start bringing out decks and then not using others, and you know, it's just, I tried to make sure that I only had 4 of each on each side, and soul cards is smack bang in the middle. So this is the Joie de Vivre by Paulina Cassidy, and I was excited to work with this deck again because I didn't get to work with it last rotation. And this is a really great, really quirky, really sassy sort of a deck. It has that mischievous energy that I was talking about before. It has a flippant kind of a I don't know, a voice to it. It's very matter of fact. It's very matter of fact. It's very bored. It's very bored with you. It's like, oh God, here's your answer. I'm so bored with you. Oh my God. I could be used for much more, you know, much better things. And it's just, it's got a really sassy kind of an energy. And it looks so sweet and it looks so innocent, but do not be fooled, because this deck packs a little bit of a punch. And I really like it. I love the way that Paulina Cassidy draws her characters. I love how moderately spooky, moderately creepy they can be. Like take this woman for instance. Look at that. You know, it's got such a quirkiness to this deck, and I really like it. It's warm in one way and cold in another. It actually is it's very activating, this deck. It's really quite activating, and I have so enjoyed using it. I prefer the Joie de Vivre over the Paulina Tarot. I find the Paulina Tarot, the artwork in the Paulina Tarot, to be really, really intricate. Much more intricate. I mean, this is intricate artwork, right? You can see the level of detail in this particular artwork. I've already showed you those cards, so I'll flip them over. But the Paulina takes it to a next level, and it's a little bit more shadowed, I find. So I'm really enjoying using this particular one. There's a lot more simplicity in the images when compared to the Paulina, and it's just very eye-catching, and the colour palette used and the characters that she's chosen to depict in each card make for a really wonderful adventure. So that is it for the tarot component. So I'm going to show you the oracle component, what I'm using at the moment. First of all, honourable mention on the oracle side is I'm working with the Oracle of Echoes by Tourian, and I have used the Oracle of Echoes for the last 8 readings that I have done, 8 client readings that I've done, 4 personal readings that I've done with myself and my friends. I wouldn't call these people clients, but I have been reading for other people, loved ones, you know, and I have used this one. And this deck has stolen my heart. I could literally use this deck in the same way that I use soul cards, only instead of the beginning, I would use it at the end, because I use soul cards at the beginning of every one of my readings. They set the tone for my reading, and those who've had a reading with me will know this, and I explain this, you know. And so this one would be great at the very, very end. Despite the fact that I use Oracle deck at the end, I have been reaching for this one quite a bit. And I have been astounded by its its wisdom, its voice. It's got a really great crone energy to it. It brings out cards and themes that you don't often find in oracle decks particularly. You might come close to finding them in soul cards, but then again, that depends on how you personally interpret them. This has actually got keywords on the bottom of their borderless card, but they've actually got a keyword down the bottom. Father Time, Rest, the Lovers, Limitless, New Horizons, Awaken the Inner Force. It's got the Moon, it's got Loss, it's got Trust, Transformation, Courage. And then it's got Self-Sabotage and Letting Go and Look to Nature, and what's one of the other ones that I really like? It's got the Crone card, Self-Sabotage, one of my favorites. That's a great card to have in there. Decisions, Vulnerability, Create Space, Deceit, Symbiosis, Self-Involved. That's another one, another interesting card to have in there. So, and the card of the Ancestors. I mean, she's got some great cards. This is a 50 card deck, and I'm just so in love with this deck. I have had the time of my life with it. I really have. And you who have had a reading with me recently will know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's my honourable mention for the Oracle side. For the actual Oracle decks, I have got the Fairy Forest by, gosh, come on. Where's my Fairy Forest actually? I can't think of it, of the name. What's the name? That's the fairy tale. It's not the fairy tale. Fairy Forest. Gosh sakes. Where are you? Where are you? I have too many decks, people. I have far too many decks now because I can't even remember the name of this. Lucy Cavendish. Lucy Cavendish. Jesus. Come on. So this is the backing. I find the backing of this deck to be a bit like, it's beautiful, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. I find it to be a bit, when you look at it up close, it probably looks great on camera, but when you look at it up close, I'm like, it's very digital. It looks very digital, and I don't dig it. I don't dig it. But we have some really interesting cards in here. This is a Blue Angel deck, and it's a relatively new Blue Angel deck. I think it came out middle of last year sometime. Fairy Forest Oracle. Was it Fairy Forest? Yeah, something along those lines. And I was really, really excited to get it, but then it wasn't exactly what I thought. And because of that, I benched it. Because I used it a little bit straight away, but I couldn't really connect with it. And this time around, I've had a much better experience with it. I understand now that I need to get over myself because I place quite high expectations on deck creators that I really admire. And every now and then they're going to come out with something that is a bit left of field. But then again, I have to remind myself that they're not making it specifically for me. They're making it for all kinds of people, of all kinds of tastes. And they really have to appeal to different kinds of genres and different kinds of tastes. And so rather than get all stroppy about it like I had felt a little bit there for a moment, I decided to give this one another go in the spirit that it was designed, and it is a really good deck. It is a really good deck. It's kind of dark. Despite the fact that there's quite a clear balance point in this deck, there's a little bit of light, there's a little bit of dark, a little light, a little bit of dark, a little bit of light, a little bit of dark, and it's, you know, it's great. It's great to see that there's that duality in here in some regard, but it's actually got quite a dark sort of a voice. It's the messages like Elder, Experience, Lesson. Let me find a good one. Silent, Observant, Wily, Protector, Guardian. These are all pretty good. Revelations, Discovery from Self-Dedication. God. Rebirth, Feasting, Joy. Prophecy, Guidance, Direction. I mean, the Establishment, Growth, Fulfillment. Come on. Here's one. Recognition, Family, Kinship. Authority, Credibility, and Status. That's a good one. And Recovery, Comeback, Revival. I don't know. There was something about it the other day when I looked at it and I thought these are really these are really interesting keywords, and perhaps that was just in the mood that I was in the mind frame that I was in during the reading that I was doing at that particular time. But I found that there were a couple of keywords that made the deck itself. Like when looking at the deck laid out in front of me, it looked quite dark, and I quite liked that about this deck because Lucy Cavendish does great work. I mean, her Oracle of the Mermaids with Selina Fenech is tremendously dark, despite the fact that you think you're getting a mermaid, a whimsical mermaid deck. When you actually look at it, it's very, very shadow, and I love that about it because then it immediately takes you out of your comfort zone. You're expecting one thing and bam, it's something totally different. And this deck is something that sort of holds true to that particular approach. You know, she chooses her artists quite well, and while the artwork itself is probably my least favourite of all her decks, it's still really beautiful artwork. Now, another Lucy Cavendish deck. Lucy Cavendish, and this one is Selina Fenech. So I have Lucy Cavendish and Selina Fenech. Last rotation I used her Oracle of the Dragon Fae, and I tried to not use Oracle of the Dragon Fae this time around, but I'm using the Wild Wisdom of the Fairy Oracle, which is this one here. It is a beautiful artwork by Selina Fenech, and this is artwork that I can totally get behind. This has such interesting keywords, like the names of the characters: Dragon's Pet, Gossamer Princess, Once Innocent, Scared to Fly, and then the keywords that accompany the images and the titles are just beautiful. They're beautiful, and they really get you thinking, and I quite like it. I quite like it. I think that this is one of my favourite fairy decks, mostly because I've probably had it for the longest time, and I find the artwork to be extremely beautiful. I love the backing. I love the backings of this particular deck. The fairy star, I think it's really beautiful. The cardstock is phenomenal, and the borders are not gaudy, and they're not multicoloured. I have this real issue with multicoloured borders. Not that I've really voiced it, but a lot of Blue Angel decks have these multicoloured borders, and I don't like it. Just keep it clean. Just keep it clean. That's my own personal opinion, but whatever. But there's such beautiful movement, tone, language, and I don't know, there's magic in this deck. There is just absolute magic in this deck. Everything Lucy Cavendish touches is pretty magical, you know. She walks, and her walk and talks her talk, and she really lives by her craft, and she shares in every capacity her craft, and it's always very unique to her and authentic to her, and she does put a really good stamp on her products, and I have come to love and trust her products, the quality of her products, and I really admire Lucy Cavendish as an author, as a writer, and as a pagan witch, and I love to follow her on YouTube. She's on YouTube, by the way. I love to follow her on YouTube and see what she gets up to. She gets to go to some really beautiful places. Her and Laura Dallaghan, they do a Celtic in Rama at, I want to say it's around the September time of the year, or at least that was when the last one was, and I would love to go to one of those. They go to the British Isles, and they take you for a really great ride through the British Isles, and that's just something that I would absolutely love to do. Now, the next deck that I'm going to show you is renowned. It's renowned because it has been created by the legendary Brian Froud. This is the Heart of the Fairy Oracle by Brian Froud and Wendy Froud. And Brian and Wendy have two decks. What's the other one? The Fairies Oracle, and this is the Heart of the Fairies Oracle. And the Fairies Oracle is Brian Froud and Jessica Macbeth, but this Heart of the Fairy, which I think has the nicer backing, it is with Wendy as well. They've got great guidebooks, hard-covered guidebooks, which I really quite dig. And here's a guy that sees fairy in such a unique way, and has influenced the way so many people connect with the concept of fairy and fae. He's a legendary lover and creator of fairy art. His wife did the costumes for the Dark Crystal, so if you're a child of, you know, the late 70s, early 80s, then you will be familiar with the Dark Crystal and the Gelflings, and his wife was responsible for that. He has Lady Cottingham's Pressed Book of Fairies, he has I See Fairies, he's got a ton of fairy books in his repertoire, and he's got a couple of decks. The stock, shocking stock, it's terrible stock, but they're so beautiful, like it's literally almost paper. It's the only deck that has this bad stock, that has worse stock than this, is the, I want to say the Tarot of Transformation. But this deck has Fae energy nailed. It is depicted in such interesting ways, fairies, goblins, elves, you name it, wisps, whims, and sylphs, and oh my god, it's so good, it's so good, it's so yummy, it's so tasty, and it's a tricksy deck. It's a tricksy deck. You don't come to this deck for direction, because you will only find yourself getting more lost. You come to it for obscure wisdom. And it's not everyone I can use this deck with. Yes, I have it on my table to read with, but it's not for everyone. And in fact, there are very few people who would really benefit from some of this obscurity. And I really think that this is a deck that you need to choose yourself, that you need to work with yourself when you yourself feel ready. It's not a deck that really will appeal to everyone, not because it's not beautiful. Many people are drawn to this deck. Many people are. They love it. They love Froud's artwork. They think this is a beautiful deck. But the language of the deck is where the magic begins, and that's where things can get a little bit tricksy. But the characters are phenomenal. I've known people to have such tremendous stories about this deck, not about necessarily about the way that it reads, about the fact that it disappears, about the fact that they might find one card in one room and then the rest of the deck in another room, and they're really baffled as to why. And I'm not talking about insane individuals, I'm not talking about people of questionable character here, I'm talking about very grounded individuals who have purchased this deck specifically because they are Froud fans, not necessarily to utilize them in any strong or any strong divinatory capacity, you know, for even for like guidance or self-help or self-development. They're just interested in playing with it and you know, doing a little playful reading here and there. It's, you know, it's more hobby than anything else. They're the ones, these really grounded individuals who have had experiences where this deck just ups and walks off. A known YouTuber talks about this as well, and I thought that it was really funny. I remember laughing when she did a video about this a couple of years ago, and that's Racine, so Almoon513. She's had a little talk about this one and the tricksy nature of the deck itself. So this is a really great deck for that reason. And that's it, guys. And it's sitting under a nice piece of pyrite, which I dig. And that is it. So they are my fairy decks that I'm working with at this particular time of the year. They are the decks that I have out on my table at this particular time of the year, and I'm having a great time with each and every one of them, and I've discovered new things about each and every one of them, and that's the benefit of going there with older decks and, you know, going there with new decks and pairing new decks with old decks. And because I usually read, every reading that I do for myself or for a client or for a friend is done with 3 decks. There is never a time where I will just use 1 deck. I always use 3 decks. There's a lot of magic in the number 3 for me, and so that's how I like to roll. And so I like to see how, you know, certain new decks look up against soul cards, which are some of my golden oldies, which go up against a nice tarot deck that I've had for, you know, quite some time, or maybe it's a brand new tarot deck. I just love the relationship that can play out between decks. It's the quickest way to find out what a deck is attuned to. Does it have a strong voice for a particular kind of reading? Is it really attuned to love? Is it really attuned to spirituality? Is it attuned to finance and money readings and career readings? And, you know, you'll find out sooner or later what the voice of your deck, you know, what they're attuned to. You'll find out, you know, what they're talking about and what they like. And I know that this might sound a little bit odd to someone who perhaps just looks at tarot as pieces of cardboard. I happen to think that each tarot deck has a life of its own, has a personality of its own. The love and the passion and the artwork and the theme poured into every deck gives it a personality, and I love getting to know the personality of a deck. And no, I don't think that they embody people in any way, shape or form, although some of them have such a personality that I could easily associate them to people. I could say this deck behaves like Johnny Depp or Anne Hathaway or Meryl Streep. I could do that, and it's in my nature to do that, and I have done that with a couple of decks. But that only comes with time and you know, time spent with the deck. Anyways, it's very late and I'm getting a bit rambly, so I'm gonna call it a night and just leave you with that. And I'd love to know what kind of fairy decks you like working with. What's your favourite fairy deck? If you've got a couple of favourites, definitely list them below, because there's always decks that I have not heard of and I don't own. I'm due to unbox the Mystic Fairy. Is it the Mystic Fairy? Yeah, I'm due to unbox that one, and I'm looking forward to it because there's mixed reviews about that one. So wish me luck. Much love. Many blessings. Look after yourselves. Bye.